Hello and welcome back to FTLG. I'm Tom and I will be your host for a few hours starting now, and I'm here with Phantom running some Mega Man. If you want to introduce yourself and your count, take it away.
Yeah, so I am Phantom5800 and I will be running Mega Man Battle Network 6 any percent. I am a mostly variety speedrunner, but with specialized mostly in RPGs, and this game has a lot of times where I'm going to need to focus almost the entire run. So I have two commentators with me to help cover those gaps that I need to focus for. So Rish and Cran, you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I can go first. Hi everyone, my name is Rish. I am a Battle Network and Star Force speedrunner myself. And just have a lot of experience with all these games, and here to help fill the air with lovely tidbits on the story and also some of the details on what will be going into the speedrun. So,
nice, very nice. Yeah, Rish is very, very experienced with pretty much every BN game. Very impressive. My name is Crayon Crayoff. I only run Battle Network 6. I am the current world record holder in the 2 scenario category, and any percent tends to be very long for me, but as far as RPGs goes, it's actually not that very long. I'll be joining in on the commentary.
Awesome. I think we can probably just dive right into this. If you're ready, I can give a countdown.
Yeah, give a countdown so I can start the timer and you're good to go.
All right, let's go in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck, have fun.
So first things first, we need to talk to everyone. Specifically Dad, Mom, and a few people in town.
yeah, the beginning of most of the Battle Network games, as this is an RPG, is basically talking to a lot of characters, which kind of introduce you to some of the concepts of the game in different ways. Usually followed up with the immediate tutorial for the combat system. The combat system is actually one of the probably most interesting things about the Battle Network series. It is a sort of mix of strategy, like turn-based and real-time combat, where you have points where you have to select from a deck of cards. And then that goes into the real-time aspect of fighting on a 3x6 grid. So you'll see, for example, here, Phantom will be taking 2 cannon battle chips and using them to delete these 2 Metar enemies.
Yeah, this tutorial is mandatory in every Battle Network game, and most of them are very similar. But it is kind of nice that they force you to learn, because the Battle Network series has a continuous story, sort of, but you can pretty much jump in at any point.
Yes, and the nice thing, or the interesting thing about Battle Network is that it has sort of a restriction on some of the chips that you can select. I called them cards earlier, but they're actually referred to as battle chips. And these restrictions are that you can only take chips of the same name, or you can take chips that have the same arbitrary code as well. So for example, Phantom was able to select the area grab chip, which gave him additional panels to move forward into, so he could use a wide sword, which is a close range battle chip, to delete 2 enemies. The reason that they typically force you to do the tutorial every single time is because there's usually very minor changes to the way combat works in between the series, or different games in the series. Battle Network 3, for example, is actually very different from Battle Network 6, even though they look very, very similar on the surface.
The last mechanic, which is the counter hit mechanic in this game. If you hit a virus right at the opportune time with a chip attack, you will deal double damage with your next one. You will be using that technique a lot throughout the run.
Mm-hmm. You also noticed that Phantom did a small menu for a forced email that he has to read, but also for a quick folder edit. most of the folder edits are actually going to be pretty simple, just removing and adding more powerful chips that we get throughout the game. But since we haven't really gotten anything, you might wonder why he's exactly doing a folder edit already. This is to reg this crackshot chip he'll be using very shortly, which is a very powerful 60 damage chip. It is star coded, which is a wild card, which allows him to very quickly deal with a lot of these early virus fights. That first fight where he got a reflector, it's actually a forced. You basically really need to get that chip because the door he went through requires that reflector battle chip. So it's very good that he got that first try.
Also, very nice mini bomb double delete. Well
Yeah,
done.
it was very clean.
Good enough.
See if you get punished. Never
Lucky.
punished.
Yep. So combat also has a ranking system where the better you perform in fights, the better the rewards you will get. And what just happened there is Phantom got one counter hit, which raised his rank by 1. He didn't move more than twice, which also increased his rank by 1, and he took under 5 seconds. So he got actually a 10 rank, which is just good enough that he could still get an A-coded battle chip, because as you might imagine, folder flow is really important in this game, where you want to be taking as many battle chips as possible, because of the restrictions I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So if you get an S rank on those fights, you are guaranteed an A-coded reflector one. But if you get a lower rank, which Phantom did, rank 10, there is a chance you get a C-coded reflector, which doesn't flow very well with the other things we have in our folder.
Turns out.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of C codes in this particular game. That also reminded me of another point. We mentioned that this is any percent, but it's also specifically any percent Gregar, which is one of the 2 versions of this game. There is version Cybeast Gregar and version Cybeast Falzar. There's not really a whole lot of differences between the 2 that are super important early on. Starting around the mid game, though, there's difference of scenarios that will make it so that Gregar is actually the faster version to run. But Falzar has a lot of unique aspects to it that make it a very interesting speedrun as well. Unfortunately, we won't get to see too much of that.
Yeah, I usually say, like, there's always gonna be, it's like the waifu war of RPGs. Battle Network. Everybody has their team. I prefer Gregar, usually because it's a little easier on the mind.
Yes,
yeah, for reasons we'll see later.
I also prefer Gregar, but that just means that we're a very biased cast, and there is a lot of people who are from the Bird Up gang. Falzar is actually the bird final boss of this game, if you were to play that version, and Gregar is the dog final version. So,
also, just to talk about a couple of choices here, we're playing on the Japanese version because the Japanese text boxes are fewer, so we can go through the game faster. And also, you might have noticed that Phantom tends to rub his face against the wall a lot. That is intentional, because vertical movement, because of the perspective, vertical movement is faster than horizontal movement. So we try to move vertically as much as possible. And also
Yes.
turning around costs a frame of movement, so we try not to do that.
correct. Because this is an isometric view game, the game is stretched more horizontally, so it actually takes longer to move in the horizontal direction, sort of. So basically, we boil it down to horizontal movement is bad, vertical movement is good, diagonal movement is okay. And when you're running into a wall, it's basically forced diagonal movement.
Yeah. Also, we made it to the first dungeon. Every dungeon has a gimmick, basically. The gimmick in this dungeon is we have these firewalls. There's triggers on the floor, and they trigger a firewall. While the firewall is active, we cannot get encountered. And after the firewall has ended, it resets our step counter to whatever it was when we triggered it. So we run around triggering all these firewalls because we don't want to get encounters. Encounters are slow. And
Yeah,
later on, we
basically-
actually trigger one intentionally.
There's a few that are just in. Most of them are just in the way that we need to run through it. Regardless, we need to save all of these progs. That's what they're called. They're called Mr. Progs that are on fire. In order to put out the fire in the area and progress to the next area or to progress to the final boss.
Yeah, so there.
We have gotten our first donation. If you have time for me to read it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
for
think
it.
that would be fine.
Yeah.
TJ09 has donated $100, and their message is, "Hey Rish, thank you so much for that donation."
Hello, TJ.
$100.
Fancy
Damn.
seeing you here.
So yeah, we move up there a little bit to trigger a firewall, and we wait here to trigger another firewall. Yeah, with the purpose of not getting any encounters, ideally.
Yep. Phantom also just grabbed what is called a blue mystery data. These are basically just set items that we can grab throughout different internet areas. Where specifically what he grabbed was a reg up, which will increase our regular memory, which means that we can start to select a particular chip in our folder that we will always draw first every single time, no matter what. Currently we have Crackshot regged, which I mentioned earlier. And later on there's a very important chip that we'll be trying to reg, so we're trying to get to 12 regmen. I didn't touch on it earlier. We've currently grabbed one reg up. We grabbed a reg up 2 just now, and we start off with 4. So I believe we're currently at 7 regmen, and we need to get 5 more that I will point out as we grab.
That's also one interesting part of the card system, the chip system. Every chip has a size, a megabyte value. So you can't just take your most powerful chip and always draw it. You have to have enough regular memory. So we do a little folder edit here. We add in the reflectors, and we reg one of the reflectors so that we draw it on the first turn. And we're on to our first boss.
Yep, so this is Blastman. He will avoid moving into the same row as you for the first 3 movements, and then on the 4th one, he will try to attack you. And based on where he is in his pattern, this attack will oftentimes be what Phantom just counter hit. Or if you're stuck behind this rock, you can force him to do that attack, which is always counter hit by Reflector, which is exactly why we have it regged for a free counter hit when necessary. So you'll see him try to hide behind the rock for that reason.
There's a 3 counter hit again. We're just gonna wait for him to get to the front. Unfortunate draw, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every other movement is basically completely random where he will move. It's so basically he was just praying for effectively a 1 in 5 actually, or 2 in 5. 40% chance for him to move to the front, and he just never did it because Blastman is indeed a bully.
Sometimes it just
Can be very
happens.
rude. Yeah. But still, nice fight. Nice fight. We're on
Yeah,
to the
overall
next
not
part
too
of the
bad.
game.
We're just going to take a quick trip home, basically. Go on the internet. We haven't mentioned, this is the futuristic world where every device is connected to the internet.
Yes.
And everything that goes wrong is viruses or cyber terrorists.
Have you ever thought about connecting your oven to the internet? That is this game in a nutshell. It warns you exactly why that's a bad idea. But basically what we're doing right now is we're just kind of surfing the web. You know, we have recently gotten access to further internet areas, and we're just going to go explore this new area that we couldn't reach earlier.
Story-wise,
I'm just going to mention this quickly first. We're doing a quick shopping trip to purchase what is known as a sneak run, or if you can actually read Japanese, it directly translates to Shinobi Dash. And basically what that does is if we have the ability to 100% run away from a fight, we will instead skip over the encounter check entirely. So as a result, with that HP memory we actually grabbed earlier, our max HP is 120. That means that we can always run away from fights in this area, and the sneak run will allow us to completely go encounterless through these areas, which is much nicer for the speedrun when you don't even have to worry about taking fights that take 15 plus seconds.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, sorry about interrupting you. What I wanted to say was, story-wise, there's this kid in our class, he doesn't like us, and he was the part of the cause for everything being on fire at school. Defeating Blastman kind of made him like us a little bit more, and he told us where he hid the key, because for some reason this kid locked off part of the internet for everybody and hid the key somewhere.
For literally everyone.
Just a little bit
Like
of
imagine some elementary school kid just basically said you can't visit twitter.com. That's basically what he just did.
That would never happen.
And now we're trying to help this kid who apparently just has a pelican, a penguin following him around. And we're trying to figure out what it likes to eat, because it seems to be hungry. And apparently in this futuristic world, they just allow penguins to wander around school with children.
Right. And also in this futuristic world, the biology teacher is not entirely sure what penguins eat. He thinks it might be fish. But he tells you to go and ask the student assistant.
Yes.
Because they probably know this kid.
Yeah. So this is a quick detour to grab another Rega. Regmem is now currently at 9, so we still need 3 more.
We picked up the reg up in Central
too.
area as well.
Yeah.
You are right. So we are actually at 11. Thank you.
Yes. Almost there.
So, quick little fight coming up here with an internet-connected device that you wouldn't expect.
Yes. There's an icebox connected to the internet. It has a virus, because it always has a virus. This is one of the reasons that we actually have Reflector on Reg, is it's A-coded, flows very well, and it very well deals with this particular fight. You see just how easy it was to get a free counter hit on that enemy. He was able to use it with another A-coded chip to deal double damage with the cannon on the other virus. Very, very good fight.
Yep, good draw there. And well executed as well.
Yeah, I go for a 50-50. I just always move down by default. And if the Piranha moves up, well, rip.
Yeah,
So
the
we can see
Piranhas
the pelican.
move at random, basically.
Yes, especially the first version. There are later versions of the Piranha virus that have a more interesting AI, but we don't need to get into that.
Oh, I forgot those exist. Yeah, we never see those in the run.
You might see 1 or 2.
If you're unlucky, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so now we have fed the penguin, and now we're going to try and surf the web to figure out exactly where this penguin came from. Again, we're going to see the usage of sneak run to get through these first 3 internet areas. As I briefly kind of touched on, the ability to sneak run is based off of your max HP with strictly HP memories. There are other ways to increase your HP that do not affect your ability to run away from fights. So we're not going to really grab too many other HP memories, though, because later areas have thresholds that are way too high to reach. So we're realistically only going to be using sneak runs through these areas known as Central Area 1 through 3.
Yeah, right now...
Yeah, it would take way too long to get enough HP to sneak run in other areas.
Yeah, right now we're just helping out a little Navi. He lost his plunger, I guess. So
Yes, he basically there's a water spill on the internet that is blocking our path to the BBS the bulletin where we could find information about where this penguin belongs. And the repair guy who's supposed to come and fix this has lost his tool and just knows that he was fixing houses in Central Town earlier. So we go into our toilet and find a Metar with the plunger on its head. And yeah, that is the tool, the plunger.
That fight is really interesting because the Metors, the higher level Metors, they hide under their helmets and you can't hit them when they do that. But the way Reflector works is it reflects an attack and it moves one square every frame, which gives it just enough time to kill the middle row Metor, the middle column, which triggers the back Metor to get out of its shell, just in time to get hit by the same Reflector attack.
Yeah, it's a very clean
so that's
fight.
how we can do that really quickly.
It's a very clean fight when you can draw exactly one other chip to use to get the counter hit first, so that your 60 damage Reflector instead deals 120 damage, which is just enough for both of the other two Metors.
Speaking of draws, do one of you want to explain how draw probability works?
Yes,
Oh, good
I
point,
can.
actually.
Basically, there is one of the interesting quirks about this game is that draws are very biased in this game. It's also a very good fight. Basically, if you put chips at the top of your folder, you are more likely to draw them because the game's folder shuffling algorithm is more likely to leave chips in the slot that they are in your folder than it is to actually move them. So the chips that are in slots 1 through 5 are more likely to stay in slots 1 through 5. So that is why some folder edits he'll be putting some chips in his top few slots. Because he wants to be drawing some of his more powerful chips more quickly. The reason I say that this was a particularly good fight, very nice,
Got lucky.
is because it only has the Piranhavirus in it, and that means that he can only get drops from the Piranhavirus. One of those particular drops you can get is known as Train Arrow, which is another story required chip. There's a door later on that will require us to have a Train Arrow in some capacity, and so we need to get it from the Piranhavirus. There is no set way to get it, at least at this point in the game, so the fact that he was able to get it from basically a 50-50, because whenever you delete a Piranhavirus, it's a 50% chance to drop a Train Arrow. So I got very lucky there that he got the drop that he was needed. It's usually a very big reset heavy point of the run.
Yeah, even luckier,
there is
we
a
only got
backup
one
strat
encounter.
for it. Yeah. There is a backup strat for it, but yeah, unlike Reflector, where if you do well enough, you always get that chip, even if you get the highest possible rank on a Piranha-only fight, there's still only a 50-50 that you actually get the chip. So that can be very annoying.
It is a 50% chance from any rank from 6 to S rank. So he got a 7 rank, he still could have technically taken one more hit, and it still would have just been another 50-50.
Brain pogs in chat.
Coming up is the introduction of one of the other enhancement features of this game. Do you want to talk about the Navicust Crayon?
Yeah, Navicus, I believe it was introduced in Battle Network 3 for the first
Correct.
time. And it is basically a way that you can power up certain aspects of Mega Man. So you have Navicus programs, and they need to be placed in a very specific way, and this tutorial teaches us how to. So we have those horizontal lines on the third row. Any solid colored programs need to touch that line. And you also have the programs with the smaller squares, and they must not touch the line. Finally, programs that have the same color should not be touching. horizontally or vertically, because otherwise you will cause a bug in Mega Man, and that can take on many different forms.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be seeing a bug in particular later. Very specific one.
Yeah,
Played
one
Tetris
other
multiple
thing that
times.
is unique in this game, if I'm not mistaken, it is definitely not in BN3, is that it is possible to place programs slightly outside of the square, which will always cause a bug. And we make use of that later on in the run, when we want to add a few more programs, but we don't actually have enough space to do so.
Yep. That is a mechanic specific to Battle Network 6, where you can place panels. You can place programs one panel off of the actual grid, and it's actually very useful to fit some of the larger but more powerful Navicuss programs, and just get them all on the grid as well.
So we figured out that our penguin friend is from the aquarium. Why nobody thought of that, I don't know, but here we are. So we went and visited the aquarium, and we're checking out all the animals now. Lots of talk to everything bits in these series.
So basically, you guys may not be able to read Japanese, but that sucks because there's going to be a pop quiz later on all of the information that we just did not read ourselves. But no, basically what happened there is we returned the penguin. The director was very happy that we returned the penguin, and gave us a free pass to read everything in the or to just basically browse the aquarium.
Also, in typical RPG fashion, we rummaged around in a garbage can to find our last reg up.
Yes. We now have 12 ragmem, which won't be particularly used just yet. There's still a little bit of time before we'll actually put that to good use, but we have gotten all of the most easily available ragmems. And now, all heck has broke loose, and all of the animals in the aquarium have been released, including the turtles, the penguins, the sharks. They're everywhere. Piranhas are in the fountain. And we're trying to figure out what's going on. The director is being attacked by an alligator. Our friend is, congrats on Penguin Skip.
Very nice penguin skip. Yeah.
He saved
So
exactly 2 turn frames there.
Yeah, that skip, quotation mark skip, has become a bit of a meme. If you round that corner tightly, you can just walk straight past the penguin instead of having to adjust your movement a little bit and turn around, which I mentioned at the beginning. Turning causes you to lose 1 frame of movement. So just going straight saves you 2 frames of movement there, and we like to act as if that's a huge time save.
Yes, but the more important skip is coming up very shortly. So basically, this copy bot allows Mega Man to actually exist in the real world, and currently there's a ball filled with lead that's at the bottom of a pool that we can't actually get, but we need it to get this elephant seal out of our way. So Phantom was able to perform copybot skip, which basically means that he did not forget to put Mega Man in the copybot after talking to it the first time. And as a result, we can now use the copybot to, for whatever reason, use an electronic device to go underwater without causing any problems, to grab this ball filled with lead in a tank filled with jellyfish. And as a result, we can now let the elephant seal play with its ball and get out of our way, and go deal with the second dungeon cop.
Yeah, and as I said, every dungeon has a gimmick. The gimmick in this one is there's Mr. Progs all over the place, and they've forgotten what they are. They are a type of fish or animal for the most part. And we have to figure out in which of these tanks that we just walked past they belong. That's unfortunately not very easy because there's sharks around and they will eat the Progs. Also, a trick we use here, that Phantom just did, we can switch to Lan, and Lan can walk around the aquarium, talk to the different animals, and learn about them to figure out which prog goes where. But what that also does is it causes a scene transition. And scene transitions in this game reset our step counter. So if all goes well, we just switch to land at opportune moments to reset our step counter, and we should not see any encounters throughout the entire dungeon.
This is particularly nice because with our current HP threshold, we only have a 25% chance to run away. And our fall area is not particularly strong just yet. So you would actually be getting upwards of like 10 encounters throughout this entire comp.
Imagine.
That are going to lose you a lot of time. If you don't get a good draw, you have to take 2 turns. And that's like 20 plus seconds per fight. We're talking literally minutes here in terms of how much time save being able to reset our step counter is. Each of these resets costs about 4 seconds, so it's a huge deal being able to do this. Also of note, we mentioned the sharks that are kind of patrolling the area. The way that they work is the blue sharks try to chase you to an extent. They try and path towards you. They move a bit slower, and the red sharks move a bit faster, but move in a completely set pattern always. By doing very set movement from the prog, which spawns the shark, we are able to keep all sharks' movement consistent and get through the area to put the prog into its tank safely. You'll actually see Phantom start to walk a bit, which means that he lets go of the B button temporarily. That's to bait some of the sharks to move in a very particular way that will allow him to get past them unscathed.
Yeah, right there in particular was the probably biggest example of walking for an extended duration.
Mm-hmm.
I remember having a lot of trouble trying to get that one down. I ran into that shark so many times.
I ran into this second one here a lot.
Yeah, that looks really scary.
In my most recent run of Battle Network 6, which wasn't too long ago, but had been my first one in like a year, I got caught by that first shark. So it's even experienced runners are not immune to messing up these comps. They're not trivial by any means.
Yeah, and getting caught there is very, very annoying because talking to that first prog, there's like a slight delay because all the sharks spawn in, and that also affects their movement. Their movement starts later. Mm-hmm. So once you get caught by that first one, you have to kind of adjust on the fly, because just doing the regular movement will not work. That shark will still catch you then.
Also, when you get caught, you no longer can use the set locations for resetting your step counter. They no longer work exactly the same. So you just kind of have to do things almost like everything just becomes on-the-fly routing.
Yeah, most of the time, once you get caught, it's just don't bother. Just reset. But yeah, in a marathon setting, of course, you can't do that. So yeah, then improvising becomes a big deal.
Yep. So yeah, this
Fortunately, so far we're good.
Mm-hmm. This comp is basically the reason we were forced to talk to everything in the aquarium, is because when you talk to the progs, they will give you a hint as to what they are, like some like vague recollection, and you're supposed to take that hint and the information of what they all of the animals that you read about are, to actually match them up with the tank. That's also the reason you're supposed to be able to press the L button, is to go actually explore the rest of the aquarium in case you'd forgotten something. Right. Because you're expected to be able to read in this game.
Large expectations from the Capcom developers.
Yes. Very large expectations.
You could just brute force it.
Yes, you could always just try. If you put a prog in the wrong tank, by the way, you just get a encounter, because it basically sets off warning signals that someone's doing something wrong. The prog goes back to its original spot, so it's like you never saved the prog to begin with. It's a big time loss.
And for those who are familiar with the speedrun, we're doing a few extra L presses here to guarantee that we don't get encounters. But on the higher levels, we do fewer L presses and take a small chance of getting an encounter in the first and the third area of this comp.
Yeah, with very,
it has
very
also
tight.
become a bit of a meme. A 6% chance it is.
You risk the first 6% encounter check in the game, and in the comp, and you risk the last one as well. So, coming up is Dive Man, the most annoying boss in the game. He is undamageable when he's under the water, just like that. He also has a 1 in 3 chance when he remerges after 2 movements to attack until his 4th movement coming up. Right now, actually, he's always going to do an attack when he comes up, and it will always be a tidal wave attack. And so, as a result, it's very difficult to get counter hits on Dive Man. We also are able to force him. That was very nice. It was kind of lucky that he chose to attack me, but very nice. But we can also force him to do very particular movement, because Dive Man will avoid moving into the same row as you, but he also can't move backwards. He can only move into panels that he was not just in. So we can kind of force him to move around the area as we please and kind of keep him in the back row or in the front row for swords if necessary.
A very
Overall,
nice fight. That sword really helps.
Yeah, it was I would say that is a slightly above average fight, which is kind of hilarious because you can do that fight really quickly, but it requires getting some insane luck.
I got life
Very
sword in a
long.
practice run yesterday.
Yeah, so Life Sword, what he just mentioned, is a program advance. You select 3 battle chips or 3 or more in a particular order, and they form a more powerful single battle chip that you can use. Life Sword in particular does 400 damage in a 2x3 area. It's very strong. It also requires a RNG drop that we
mention
didn't
there.
even get.
The category that I run the most, Delete Dive Man, ends when we killed that boss. We added that category in as a sort of easier version of the speedrun, which doesn't take quite as much time. It's easier to get into. So yeah, we finished the run right after that fight.
It is. We created a lot of 2 scenario categories in order to encourage people to sort of have an easier time learning the games. You can practice the early game in a more competitive fashion, while also allowing people who maybe don't have the time, like 2 hours to spend on an RPG speedrun, but still allow them to be part of the community and get into speedrunning. So if you are interested in these games, you are more than welcome to just try out the 2 scenario categories.
Can confirm, lots of fun.
So coming up here, we have a old face, if you're familiar with the previous Battle Network games, specifically the first 3 or 4. This is Mr. Match.
Best character.
Renowned terrorist.
Arsonist.
Yeah.
Yeah, now teacher at school.
Yeah, he's now a teacher at our school. Finally reformed 5 games later, after literally causing 3 different problems. We're going to use this opportunity to buy more sneak runs. We can actually abuse the fact that Heatman's base HP is what it is. Battle Network 6 doesn't really introduce it, but it allows you to play as other navies. They are called your Link navies, and they're specific to the version that you're playing. So this is one of the key differences between Gregar and Falzar. You must first complete what is known as a Link scenario, or a Link Navi scenario, where basically it's some type of gimmick, kind of like a dungeon, but not really, that's related to the Navi. So for example, this one, we are dealing with some kettles that apparently can only be damaged by fire, and because we're currently a fire Navi. So we have to use Heatman to deal with these kettles. They are basically just 4 forced fights that we can actually do 100% consistently with the chips that we are granted by Heatman. Every Link Navi has a set chip that it's like a signature chip they will be given no matter what. And the chip that we have on Reg, which is currently Crackshot and will soon be a brand new chip that Phantom just picked up. So these fights are 100% consistent, not RNG based in any way.
They can be kind of tricky though, because if you don't get the counter hit, there's really no way for us to deal enough damage to these kettles, because you need to do 100 damage to them. And Heatman's signature chip only does 70, so we need to get those counter hits to bump it up to 140 in order to actually be able to get through these fights. Now, we just added copy damage, which specifically for this fight actually, and useful in other parts as well. Copy damage does what it says on the tin. You tag an enemy, and any damage you do to other enemies will get copied to that enemy, which allows us to kill all those 3 kettles in one hit.
And now, the end of every Link Navi scenario is that we have to fight that Navi as a boss. So we now have to defeat Heatman. This is one of the more annoying fights. He has 700 HP, which is quite a bit at this point. We haven't really improved our folder a whole lot. It'll become more obvious why later. But we don't really have very good tools to do it. The best tool we have is actually Trainer, the forced story chip. Because of elemental weakness. Heatman is fire element and Trainer is aqua element, which means it deals double damage. You can actually deal up to 300 damage multiplied by 2 for full synchro to Heatman. So you can do 600 damage to him with a single chip. But unfortunately, even like 4 turns in, we still haven't got it.
What it is, I don't think it's a shuffling algorithm thing, but Train Arrow never decides to show up on this fight.
Yeah.
We're getting decent flow though. But yeah, this fight, if you want to do it really quickly, it's just basically hoping that you draw Trainer. And there it is, like right at the end.
So we just overkilled him by about, by my math, 530 damage.
Worth.
So this is
He had it coming.
another tutorial for what is known as crosses. Basically, we can fuse with our Link Navi, now that we have finished the scenario, to do what is called Heat Cross. And this basically powers up Mega Man, gives him some of the abilities of that enemy. Our Buster now is a 3 damage long Heat Buster. So it does fire damage. We buff fire chip damage. So that's why we were able to actually defeat those enemies. And overall, it's just a very powerful new transformation, and is kind of why we don't really need to improve our folder a whole lot, because it's just kind of broken, honestly. With copy damage currently on reg, and the different transformations we get access to in this game, you really don't need a whole lot of anything else.
This is also, we mentioned it in the beginning, this is the big difference between the Cybeast Gregar and Cybeast Falzar versions. Heatcross is Gregar exclusive. In Falzar you get Spout Cross, which is still really good, but not quite as broken as Heatcross.
Yes.
Speaking of not needing chips, we're gonna get 5 right now.
Yeah, so, I mean, I said we don't need them, but we can make ourselves a little more powerful, because why not? So this is called the Lotto Code Trader. If you know a 8-digit combination, you can put the code in, and you will be given a guaranteed reward back every time. So Phantom probably just has a text file that tells him these 8-digit combinations, or he has them memorized, who knows. I have at least 2 of these memorized. And they'll give him some very powerful items. So far we have gotten what's known as a Navi chip for Count Hakushaku. That's actually a Japanese exclusive chip. It's pretty good. It's a null element, which will be important later, and star-coded. We also got Airspin. This is a powerful AoE chip. We got M-Boomer, another very powerful AoE chip that will also help us with some elemental problems. Got Lance Star, which is another strong chip, and Star Code is always nice for folder flow. We also got an HP plus 400 and HP plus 500 Navi Gust program, both of which will be added later to make us a lot safer. This is another Navi Gust program called Buster Pack, probably the most broken part of Battle Network, which will increase all of our Buster stats by 3 each, so that our Buster can start actually doing some damage. And we lastly got Elm Trap, which is another very powerful star-coded null chip. So all of these 5 chips are going in now. Making sure to put them at the top of our folder, because as we mentioned, the chips at the top are more likely to be drawn. And then a quick Navi Gust edit. So, as we said, HP plus 400 is not on the grid right now, which means that we actually have a bug, and Buster Pack increases all of our Buster stats by 3 each. And now our Buster is looking pretty strong, and we have 400 extra HP. The bug that we just put in will result in us losing HP slowly but surely as fights progress, but we have so much that it doesn't matter.
And we'll have even more later.
Exactly, yeah, because we also picked up that HP plus 500.
I was going to say, as you saw, we got HP plus 400 and 500.
So things are not going very well on the internet. This is a kid's game, so don't worry about all these Navis just lying around. They're not dead, they're just taking a nap. But yeah, we have our next boss causing issues, or well, not a next boss, but the signature, the namesake of this game.
Yep.
Mr. Gregar himself.
The goodest boy, Gregar.
We're just petting the dog. It's fine.
Good old Greg.
We have Dad. Okay, so we saw Cybeast Gregar, which is like seeing Godzilla in your backyard or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Lan asks his dad, who knows a lot about computers and navis and stuff, how do we stop this Cybeast? It's kind of destroying everything. And Lan's dad tells him, very reasonably, don't go near that thing, it destroys everything.
Yep.
So, of course, we ignore that advice and go back to the internet.
Yep. This is beginning of the sort of, it's not really a dungeon comp, but it's a gimmick for this scenario. This is called Evil Spirits. Basically, it's just a puzzle where these evil spirits are all over the area, and you have a set number of what are called soul weapons to use to defeat them. You can use a dagger, which goes 1 panel in front of you, longsword, which is 2 panels in front of you, wide sword, or cyber axe, excuse me, which is the 3 panels directly in front of you, versus longsword, which goes like 2 panels sort of direct. It's hard to, you can kind of see what's going on. And then lastly, the cyber gun, which hits 3 panels only in front of you. We can use all of the information that we've already gathered to do this 100% optimally every time. There's no randomness to this pattern. One other neat fact is when you hit a evil spirit in the back, you're behind it, it will die immediately no matter how much health it typically had. The red evil spirits will have 1 health, yellow have 2, and blue have 3 health. So that's how many times you need to hit them.
Also, one thing we do here is we try to kill spirits in 1 hit as many times as possible, of course, because you don't want to go through that animation many times. But if we can kill multiple spirits in the same hit, we also try to do that, because they also have a death animation, which takes a little bit of time. So killing multiple spirits with 1 hit saves a tiny bit.
Yep. Also, another important note is to not stand next to an evil spirit and leave it alive if you are adjacent to it. Diagonals don't count, don't worry. And when I say diagonals, I actually mean cardinals because isometric, but whatever. Basically, if you're standing next to an evil spirit and you leave it alive, it will retaliate, and that technically damages you. We don't care about that. It's just another long animation that loses its time.
Other than that, there's really not very much exciting going on. This is just walking around, lots of menuing, really. In my opinion, this is, in the speedrun, one of the more boring parts.
Yes.
Luckily,
It's
we're
always the
almost
exact
done.
same. Yeah. Almost done. For now.
So yeah, Mega Man learned, story-wise here, Mega Man learned that he has like a ton of storage, and he is going to be using that storage to capture this Psy Beast inside his own memory.
He eats
You
the
see him just
dog.
lying around there. It did not go very well.
He ate the dog and now he has indigestion.
Exactly. So yeah, Mega Man is not feeling very well. But luckily, we have another Navi that we have access to. Heatman. So we're going to go grab Heatman and go get Mega Man some water. So he,
Yep.
yeah, sort of soothe his upset stomach.
Exactly. That is the neat thing about Link Navis in this game, is that at any point, whether or not you have access to Mega Man or not, you can control them to go wherever. There's also some like interesting little side things you can do. There's some obstacles that guard certain rewards that you can get rid of with certain Link Navis, but you'll never see that in an any percent speedrun. And yay, more Evil Spirits time! Let's go!
Yeah, this room
Really,
is
there is one bit
pretty
here.
big.
Yeah. Most internet areas have 2 or 3 areas per region. For example, there's 3 in Central area, and the area we're currently in is Seaside, based off of Seaside Town. There are also 3 areas here, and so there's one Evil Spirit puzzle for each, so we have to do Area 1 first. This area has the door that requires us to have a train arrow, so if we didn't have a train arrow already, we would be stuck here trying to get one. Typically, Phantom would probably use a backup to get that a bit more easily before we ever get here, but
Yeah.
Also, killing these 3 evil spirits at the bottom, I do quite like that. That feels good.
it does feel very good hitting them all from behind with a nice, juicy axe.
I used a sneak run in a very specific location to hopefully have it end right about, well, now.
There.
So one of the annoying things is to activate evil or soul weapons, you have to press A. And when a sneak run's about to expire, it's just a text box you kind of want to mash through. So technically, if you can get the sneak run to expire after soul weapons, you can just mash A so that you get through the text box slightly faster. It's one of those things that realistically does not make a difference, but as a speedrunner, you care about like every individual frame, and therefore you think about these things.
Speaking of frames, there was this cube in the way. You had to pay 100 zenny. The
Outrageous,
currency in
really?
this game. Yeah, to get past it, and it has a sort of animation where it slowly goes away, it fades out. So while that animation is playing, we moved over to the right and shot one of the blue evil spirits. You know, just because we're waiting there anyway, we might as well do something useful with it, right? And that also saves a tiny bit of time.
One thing you might notice about this area as well is it has these panels on the ground with arrows. When you step on those panels, you are taken in that direction until the conveyor belts basically end with no control. So there has been 1 or 2 runners, we won't name any names, who have ever gone on a very long and beautiful journey down those and had to go all the way back around through this very specific path, because technically speaking, if you don't pay that toll, this puzzle is actually impossible. Fun fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, we have
it's
some more
actually-
fixed fights here to open this this door that's in the way. These fights are pretty tough, actually.
Nice.
Very nice, very nice.
We're
Good
kind of
draw,
just
good
praying
draw.
for draws. That one just happened to work.
it is possible to go through this if you have crackshot regged, but the timings are pretty tight.
Yeah, so if you go out of your way and specifically reg Crackshot again, all of those fights are 100% consistent because you just get early counter hit, and then you use your signature chip to deal 140 damage, and you can kind of chain counter hits that way. It's technically faster to not do that, but at the same time, it's usually better to rely on guaranteed stuff like that than it is to pray for lucky draws, and it's a very small cost usually.
Yeah, if you get lucky with M Boomer, you just clear everything anyway, but yeah, that's rare.
Also, just in between here, I see we have a raid in, so welcome all the raiders. We're doing a Battle Network 6 speedrun. Enjoy!
So this clump of evil spirits may seem intimidating at first. There's a very effective way that Phantom will be getting through these. It's very intimidating to look at, but it's all not that bad when you boil it down to the puzzle it is.
As long as you know exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That one actually took a while to memorize. There's just a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
So now we have another forced fight here.
Oh, good draw.
I messed up.
Unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
This is a very common occurrence in Battle Network speedruns where you get excited with a good draw and you just kind of forget to take every battle chip because, it's just like that.
It's all good. It's all good.
Now we get to wait, because Heatman's Buster is very bad.
Heatman's Buster, as you can see, can only go 2 columns in front of him, so can't quite reach the back row, and it's kind of tough. So you usually want to get a good draw.
We did get to show off some of our new powerful chips.
Yes.
So
got to see
yeah, all intentional, of course.
Yeah.
Just demonstrating M Boomer, 170 damage around the outskirts of the battlefield. Drops grass panels, which, fun fact, if a fire attack hits a grass panel, it deals double damage, just like, hitting a grass enemy. So we get to make great use of that with our new Heat Buster as Heat Cross Mega Man.
Hopefully.
Also, that's stacks. So if you hit a grass enemy with fire damage, you deal double damage. If you hit anything on a grass panel with fire damage, you deal double damage. If you hit a grass enemy on a grass panel, you deal quadruple damage.
And if you have full synchro, they're dead.
Yes.
Typically, yes. The unfortunate thing is that when you are in a cross form, like Heat Cross, you cannot get full synchro. So getting counter hits doesn't matter. Usually it doesn't make a difference because your Buster is insanely powerful, especially because we have Buster Pack in. But that being said, we just got access to a new transformation known as Beast Out. And that is very, very strong. Basically, your Buster now is a Gatling gun, so you can't charge it, but you can fire really fast and deal quite a bit of damage quite quickly. You can charge null element chips, and if you fully charge them, they will be converted into a double slash attack that deals currently 180 damage to 90 damage slashes that are auto-homing. So you just run up to the nearest enemy and always hit them. Or if you just use the battle chip, it also auto-homes for you. So it's very difficult to miss with Beast Out, unless you get unlucky with movement patterns and stuff. Now we have Circus Man, who is a boss who will kind of get bullied. So this is the power of our new Buster that deals 130 damage per charge shot, and we just kind of do that. Yeah.
I absolutely love this fight. This is like the first time where you get to use all your new toys to just murder a boss.
Yep. So we've kind of been building up all of these new toys since Heatman, and we haven't really gotten to use them because we lose access to Mega Man very quickly, and we have to use Heatman himself. So after 15 minutes of waiting, we finally get to use our new toys. We're now on to the next scenario. We're doing something known as the, I always mess up the name, Pavilion Navi Operator, or it's the Expo Pavilion Navi Operator contest, something like that.
Don't even know. We have to do like solve a couple of riddles as a test to be able to be a guide in an expo that's coming up.
Yep. So we just bought 2 more sneak runs, which is all that we will be able to use throughout the rest of the speedrun. We also just bought what is known as a full energy for safety purposes. That will basically, when you use it, restore Mega Man's HP to full. So if Phantom is ever in dire straits, he can use that between battles to get back up to full. It's a very nice safety option.
Yep. It's a very particular spot that I will be, that's planned for if I need it, but we won't see that for a while.
I can picture exactly which one it is.
I have a sneaking suspicion as well. So yeah, we just run around, find the quest givers, so to speak, and they each give us a riddle as to where the next one is.
Yep. The first riddle is Cyber Seal, which is basically just a reference to the background of the area we're about to be in. If you look closely at the background, you will see a cyber seal, because we're on the internet. The next hint is actually, I don't know what it is in Japanese, because the context changes in English. But, basically, what the heck is it? It's like, it's something to do with, do you remember it, Crayon, by chance?
I think it's something along the lines of a fish that doesn't swim.
Yes, fish that can't swim. Thank you.
Makes sense.
It is a fish that can't swim, and the area that we just jacked into is known as fish sticks comp in English. I forget. It's just I'm not gonna be wrong.
Yeah, in Japanese it's those fish-shaped breads.
Yeah.
Which actually, if the hint is the same in Japanese, it makes a lot more sense in my opinion. Like, of course, a fish stick can't swim. It's a dead fish.
Yeah. But yes, and then the final one is something about always keeping an eye on crayfish. And so, just gotta remember that apparently we have pet crayfish in our classroom. And so, what is always keeping an eye on those crayfish?
Yeah, these hints are, when you're playing this game casually, these hints are really annoying because there are such minor things that are so easy to miss. And if you don't know where to look, you're basically just stuck running all over the entire area that we've unlocked and just talking to every single little thing and hoping you find it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is actually, I think this is really clever because this bit forces us to find out about a couple of things that we will need later in the story.
That is correct, yeah. Knowing about that camera is very important. We're actually going quickly out of our way here. This is a quiz that Phantom just completed. Very just set answers, just a little bit of menuing. All we got from it was a key item known as a quiz book, which, funnily enough, if you read the key item, there's a key item sub-menu that you can read for this particular item, and it gives you a lotto code. So that's typically how you're supposed to learn about these lotto codes, is through key items or through real-life promotions. They did a lot of real-life promotions, especially in Japan. It's a very famous code that was on a restaurant's menu somewhere. But, of course, yes. So the quiz book that we just got, not important in any way, shape, or form. We only did that quiz to unlock a future quiz in in one scenario. So it's very important that we get that quiz out of the way as efficiently as we can.
We've also, in the meantime, unlocked our next area. This is Greentown. We pick up a chip here, another powerful chip, Black Ball, which we will see later on. Greentown's gimmick, like Seaside has the Seaside and the Aquarium gimmick, Greentown is all based on trees and a judicial system.
Yes.
So they take rules very seriously here.
Yep. Also, this is going to be pretty much what we see for the rest of the run, is abusing copy damage and Heat Cross Buster to deal with most random virus fights, so that we always get one turn fights. At worst, we sometimes have to do 2 Buster shots, but that is the strat that we will be employing for all random virus fights from now on, which is pretty much why we don't care about getting enough HP memory to sneak run through these. It's because it's not as efficient compared to just taking these fights.
Yeah, you see I walked around a blue mystery data right there. That mystery data is an HP memory that I just will not pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, it takes longer to actually get it than to just walk around it, and really it doesn't make a difference. 20 HP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, doesn't really help us very much.
Also,
we had another money sink there. We had to pay for lawyer lessons, basically.
Yes.
Because the door we just ran into asks us a question about the law in Greentown. And I think the question is, what is the punishment for hitting a Mr. Prog on the head?
Accurate, yes. It is a very interesting question. Very unfortunate. Missed there. It does work out that way sometimes with enemy movement AI that you just sometimes miss.
Yeah, just a
we do try to be fancy sometimes.
Yeah,
we do try to be fancy sometimes, because shifting to Heat Cross does give you that Heat Cross transformation animation, which takes up time. So what we also try to do at times is, when we have a good chip draw that we can use to just kill everything, we try not to go into Heat Cross, because just using chips to do it is faster.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we weren't let into the courthouse before because we weren't on the list, but now we are, so we can go back in. And we can go check out the courtroom and, most importantly, the judge tree, which is literally a tree that they've built a computer into with an AI that acts as a judge.
Yep. It pronounces everyone guilty or not guilty based on the evidence provided to it. Because who doesn't want an artificially built system to control your justice system? What?
Especially in a world with as many viruses as Battle Network has.
What could possibly ever go wrong with an AI controlling who is guilty and not?
Probably nothing.
Nothing can ever go wrong in such a world where there is potential for someone with evil intent to have built such a system. Anyway, I digress.
We're just gonna go to bed.
I do want to mention one little thing about the judge tree and the judicial system in this world. We just witnessed the trial of Captain Blackbeard, it is,
Yes.
I believe, who caused all the issues at the aquarium.
He is Dive Man's operator.
Yeah. The prosecuting lawyer basically just asks Lan, what did you see? Did you see this guy? And Lan says yes. And then he asks, and is this guy the one who caused all the problems? And Lan says yes. And then the prosecuting lawyer literally says, well, that seems like an open and shut case. I don't think we need to hear a defense. And the judge tree agrees.
For reference, you want to know who created the judge tree? It's totally not Prosecutor Ito who literally said these things. The prosecutor literally created the judge tree and programmed it. So, of course,
That doesn't seem like a conflict of interest at all.
Not at all. Anyway, speaking of judicial issues, our dad was just accused and pronounced guilty of hacking into the judge tree. Because the judge tree was hacked into, and apparently the judge tree could not possibly lie about who hacked it. But we know that our dad wouldn't do that, because our dad is a fine, upstanding man. And so now we are told that we can go find some evidence to give our dad an alibi, so that we can prove his innocence. Even though so far, the judge tree has never once been wrong about who it pronounces guilty or not.
So they say, at least.
Yes. In order to do that, we remember that our dad was actually, during the hacking, at the school. So we talked to our teacher. Our teacher mentions he doesn't have the best memory. He's only a tiny bit suspicious with his response to us. Don't worry about it. Nothing could be wrong about our teacher. And he basically tells us, yeah, I think someone that was kind of like your dad maybe was working on the blackboard here at school yesterday. So we go check out the camera that we now know exists to see if there's evidence of this. And we find that there's a virus and the footage has been wiped clean.
Who could have seen this coming?
This is a very nice draw for this fight.
I'm just going to use this one.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate because M-Boomer does exactly 170 damage, which is not quite enough to deal with that 180 health enemy.
Plus, you get to see Hackjack.
Indeed. Instead, because the footage was wiped clean, we find evidence that we find out that our friend Mick locked a security bot in the locker room in the back of our classroom. When our teacher finds this, he also tells us that it has a camera installed in the security bot. So the security bot has been able to spy on the classroom from the locker room at all times. And obviously the culprit wouldn't know that there's just a security bot locked into a locker in the back of the classroom. So we're going to go grab that footage, which is going to prove our father's innocence, but also teach us who is framing him. Shocker. It's Prosecutor Ito.
No way.
Who would have thought? Yeah.
Who could have ever seen this coming?
He didn't even look like a very important character.
He totally doesn't have a custom sprite, which is only granted to villains and very specific friends.
Yeah, shoutouts to Mick.
I could have gone either way.
Mick is kind of like the secret hero. Keeps doing things that solve all of our issues.
Unintentionally. He was just pulling a prank for no reason. Also, the most unbelievable thing of this whole scenario is the fact that we, as a 12-year-old who is related to this guy, our dad, come up and say, I have evidence that proves that my dad is innocent, and an adult believes this child. That is the most unbelievable part of this whole scenario, is that they're just like, I believe you.
Wouldn't say most, but it's definitely up there.
Anyway, shocker, Prosecutor Ito has pronounced everyone in all of Cybertown guilty for some reason. So everyone's guilty, and now everyone's trying to be arrested, and so we have to figure out how to get into the judge tree. There's a door to like the basement that lets us get to the judge tree. It's currently locked. We need to know the law number for something. NetNavi rights. What's the law number associated with NetNavi rights? I can't believe you forgot that. Why'd you have to go talk to that Navi fan? It's just 153, dude.
It really annoys me every single time, because most of the time when this game asks you, oh, what is the number of this, you don't actually have to go and ask or find out if you have it memorized.
Yeah, exactly. You're forced to go figure this number out. Anyway, this judge tree comp the dungeon comp gimmick here is that when you step on a panel, it spawns grass, and the law here is that you cannot step on the grass. So once you've stepped on a panel, you cannot step on it again. That is the rule here. You can only step on each panel once. Again, like most things in this game, that rule is merely a suggestion. You might see Phantom breaking that rule later. I don't know if you necessarily go for that strat or not, but
Nope.
yeah, I figured. Basically, all that happens if you step on the grass or if you step on a panel you've already stepped on is a gavel starts chasing you around. If you can outrun this gavel, nothing bad happens. You can move on to the next area all scot-free.
Yeah.
Or you can go into the cutscene.
The downside to this area, in my opinion, is some of these hitboxes are a little janky.
Yeah, so in order to prevent you from moving diagonally between tiles and kind of messing up in unintentional ways, is they put really jank corner hitboxes on every tile that are really awkward to move around and definitely get on a lot of people's nerves.
Yeah, these corners, they're huge.
Yeah.
There's like small corners on the actual corners that you can see, like hitboxes, and yeah, Phantom is making it look easy right now, but this is actually really hard to navigate.
Also, another HP memory that he just walked directly past and did not grab because
Literally touch the
no
tile.
point. Literally touched it, walked directly into it.
Okay, let's do this.
It is time to beast out and charge what we just talked about, null chips. You do this by holding A until it fully is done. Unfortunately.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
The nice thing about Beast Out in Gregar version, there's actually small differences between Falzar's and Gregar's version. Gregar's has a slightly better Buster, I would say.
Well,
That's unfortunate. Kind of messed
Yeah.
up. So we get to see the gavel. All it does is it brings you back to the beginning of the area. And you take damage for every grass panel you stepped on. 100 damage. So, not really a huge deal. Just a little bit of time loss. Probably have to do another encounter again as a result.
probably two.
It's like
but
just like we didn't do the area yet.
We'll just pretend that never happened.
yeah.
Exactly.
Or we could just pretend that it's an advanced strategy,
It is
like working
RNG
together.
manipulation.
Hopefully.
We are manipulating all future draws to have M Boomer or Airspin.
Wouldn't that be
Oh,
cool?
can you imagine that?
So you could shortcut this, but again, a little risky.
It's definitely risky. The strat there would basically be it has less movement, but you basically lock yourself into having to step on a grass panel near the end. But there's a set movement you can do out of it to guarantee that you do not get caught by the gavel. And as a result, you can get to the cutscene trigger before the gavel catches you, and everything's fine and dandy. You basically just broke the rules and got away with it.
Yeah, so this game teaches us that as long as you don't get caught, crime doesn't exist.
Exactly. This game knows. Also, we're fighting a boss with no attacks. This is best designed boss in the game. Look at him go. Yep. Phenomenal boss.
Yep.
Literally did nothing. That's just the power of Heat Cross. It's absolutely broken.
Also happened to top deck Lance Airspin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really good draw as well.
Most bosses, you don't typically need any draw, but obviously if you can save a charge shot by using a battle chip, you might as well, because charge shot takes charge time. There's a cooldown animation while you wait for your charge shot to actually finish. And then bosses also have iframes, so you have to wait out anyway, so... And funnily enough,
Yeah,
the two chips you use...
actually. Sorry.
was
Most
gonna say,
iframes actually line up very nicely with the time it takes to charge
Yes.
the Buster if you're in heat cross.
Yes, I was also going to say the two chips he ended up using are two of the only chips, like, well, three. We have three chips in our folder that do not cause iframes. Lance, Wood Element, most Wood Element chips don't cause iframes, and Airspin also does not cause iframes until maybe the last one. I don't remember. I don't think it does at all. Anyway, we just went very much out of our way. We have no reason to be in Seaside right now, but that's because we want to get this quiz, which, as I mentioned earlier, we did that earlier quiz to unlock this quiz. We needed to do the first quiz to unlock this one. And this gets us a Navicus program that is titled Slip Run. Most valuable Navicus program, honestly, in the series. It's super cool. We're also making use of the extra folder that we actually got in the last scenario to get some more powerful chips and just improve our overall folder flow and get rid of some of the weaker chips or non-null chips and bad coded chips, and instead add in some slightly more powerful ones that are in better codes and null elements, so we can charge them with Beast Out or deal with virus fights more efficiently. Also adding Slip Run. Do you want to talk about what Slip Run does, Crayon?
I think it's probably better to show it off.
We'll see it very soon.
Yeah, we'll see it very soon. So I think we'll hold off on that one, and we can explain what exactly it does and why we pick it up afterwards.
Of note, even the TAS, which Tool Assisted Speedrun, which would basically be able to skip all virus fights whenever it wants. It can literally do things humans can't. Still does all of this stuff, going very much out of the way to get this program. It's that strong.
And we've arrived at our new area, Skytown. Skytown is like a gazillion feet into the air. I don't actually remember. They do mention it. And this is where we first get to use our new Navicus program. So pay attention. This is going to be good.
Zoom.
There it is. So what this program does is when you're walking and you press B, you start slipping, which is much, much faster than running. Unfortunately, you can't turn around. You have to keep slipping until you basically bash into a wall, and then you go out of that animation. So that alone is really good. It means we get to move faster, which obviously for a speedrun is something we want to do. But what it also does is it helps us avoid encounters. And the way it does that is this game tracks your step counter, and it increases your step counter more if you're running. But it doesn't actually check if you're running, it only checks if you're holding B. And one other thing that Slip Run does is it allows you to auto-run. So we're just, if we're walking around as Mega Man, we're always running even when we're not holding B. Which means we get fewer encounters.
Huh.
Oh, also that gold mystery. That's bad.
Nice. I'm gonna grab it for fans. So yeah, Slip Run, very, very nice movement option, makes us move through areas faster. We're also in the next scenario, which is the second part of the Pavilion Operator Navi contest, some of it, whatever. This part is actually just a bunch of just, it's 4 gauntlets of multiple fights each. The first gauntlet's 3, then 5, and then 5, and then 10. So it's 23 fights that you just have to do. And that's the entire scenario. So we'll be making use of our more powerful folder, copy damage heat cross, copy damage beast out, etc., to deal with enemies. To touch on what this is, by the way, that's a gold mystery data. It's a very low chance to spawn. It's just a very, very rare random mystery data that has some usually very powerful things in it. For example, what you just got there was Circus Man SP, which is a Navi ship that normally we wouldn't really be able to get just yet. You just kind of got it for free. It's actually not a very good chip, and it won't be put in the folder.
definitely won't be used.
Yeah, we don't
but
usually pick up the gold mystery datas in the speedrun because the rewards don't really help us.
Yeah, there's
But
actually no.
When you come across one of those, you're still... It's like coming across a shiny in Pokemon, where you're like, okay, it's not helping me. Catching this Pokemon does not help me finish the game faster, but still, it's a shiny, I'm going to catch it.
Yeah, shinies are a bit more rare, but it's still like you better be grabbing this. Blessed gold mystery datas.
it's literally the first time I've ever seen one.
They are really rare.
Really rare.
Also, this fight. Ugh.
Pulse bulbs are very annoying. They are typically undamageable when they're in like their normal mode. They can only be damaged when they're attacking. So you have to bait them to attack first. But it doesn't work out very well usually. It's pretty tough to deal with. That being said, we also saw a very interesting mechanic with the ship Black Bomb that we haven't really talked about. Black Bomb does a lot of AoE damage, but it has to be triggered by fire damage first. Once it's attacked or hit by a fire attack, it will explode and deal a ton of AoE damage. That said, if it lands on an enemy that is fire element, that alone is good enough. Normally, Black Bomb landing on an enemy just deals 100 damage to it, like a regular bomb. But if it lands on a fire enemy, it just does the contact damage and then also explodes.
Very nice draw there, the Hackjack. These enemies are also kind of annoying.
Yeah.
They jump around and you can't hit them while they're in the air. And they have a ton of HP. Luckily, we are also very strong, so they're not particularly difficult to deal with, they're just kind of annoying.
Yeah, the other nice thing about this is that we are healed to full HP after a gauntlet, so even if we're taking damage in a few of these fights, it's fine because by the time the next gauntlet comes around, we'll be back to full health. So the only potentially scary one really is the last gauntlet, but even then, just we have so much health that it's typically fine.
Yeah, and one nice thing about these gauntlets is even, like, of course, we don't want to die. Dying is slow, we don't like slow, we're speedrunning. But even if you were to die in one of these gauntlets, you don't actually game over, fortunately. So you can just try again. It's slow, but it is what it is. At least it's not an instant game over.
So this is the really nice and funny thing about Beast Out. Even a weak and typically worthless battleship like Recuv 10 does no damage, can only heal us for 10 HP, because its null element can be charged and instead deal 180 damage. I also didn't touch on it. Beast Out is particularly powerful, but there is a bit of a drawback. You can see the counter in the top left that went down by 1. Basically, every time Phantom uses it, that will use up 1 use of Beast Out, and you can only go, or basically it counts down from 3. Every turn that you are beasted out, that goes down by 1, so you can only use 3 turns, but every fight that you don't beast out goes up by 1 more. So these last 2 fights, we got a nice draw, didn't even have to transform, and therefore we're now back up to full charges of Beast Out.
Nice.
Love me some M Boomer.
The power of some really good chips.
Almost every single fight here can be pretty easily handled with a simple copy damage and heat cross, or sometimes you basically just need to beast out. But most of the time we're actually just trying to get a good draw to save a little bit of animation time, and it's honestly better usually to chain counter hits between fights, because if you have full synchro going into the next fight, a draw could potentially save you. can make it a little bit better. It's also a fun little thing. I'm not sure if you knew about that, but basically, that pulse bulb blinded you, so you can no longer see the enemies. And because of that, auto lock-on doesn't actually work properly.
Yep.
So,
I did not actually know that.
yeah.
It's a very fun
It
mechanic.
only really comes up the 2 times.
Yep.
A very nice fight that abuses the Champy's movement pattern. It comes right up in front of you to attack you. So you put out your 3 damage buster that is actually on 3 panels, and because he moves back into the other one, you actually can get a double hit. And so now you can see the power of chaining full synchro, with some of these fights just being pretty straightforward.
In my experience, getting a full synchro, getting a counter hit in one of these fights, only happens to me if the next fight requires me to do a heat cross, which kind of gets rid of your full synchro, unfortunately.
Yep. And so that is the Sky Gauntlets, as we call them. All 4 of them have been completed. Overall, pretty well done.
Yeah, pretty solid.
And you can already see like how much more the movement kind of picks up with Slip Run, just slipping straight away a lot of the time. We also do need to be careful in some places because, as we mentioned, it goes until you hit a wall. And if you're not careful, that could cause you to go more out of your way and increase your step counter by more, which means that you're more likely to get a random encounter. So sometimes we won't just slip maniacally. Instead, we only do it like very short ways just to keep our step counter a little safer.
Also, we just pick up a X-Mem, I believe it is,
Expand memory.
which expands our Navicost square, basically. We picked one up earlier in the judge tree, and this is the second one, which allowed us to have enough space to not only have that HP plus 400 in, but we can also add in the HP plus 500 now. So we have an extra 900 hit points on top of our base level. So we're over 1,000, which is very, very nice, just for safety, really.
Yeah.
You can get away with not adding in the plus 500, but it makes the latter parts of the speedrun a little bit more tense.
Yep. At top level, you would definitely not see me pick up that memory, but it's pretty comfy just to have 1,000 HP for no reason.
That's correct. At the top level, there's actually a lot of different ways that you can set up the Navicost. Instead of bugging HP, you can choose to bug, say, your Buster, because the Buster bug is actually very typically inconsequential. It only bugs, it's so unfortunate, the classic get an encounter on top of the warp. But anyway, the Buster bug is actually very inconsequential because it only affects your pellet shots, basically non-charge shots, which we don't really need to use all too much, honestly. So you can typically get away with that, so that the extra HP that you get is not negatively impacted. And therefore, you're actually a little bit safer in that way than if you were to only bug HP and only have one of them, because you're constantly losing HP. But either way, both ways are effective, and you can very easily get away with both in the speedrun.
Yeah, there's been a lot of debate on which one is quote-unquote better, and so far the consensus seems to be its preference.
Phantom just did a quick dip into a different area to reset his step counter. That allowed him to go through all of this undernet area trip without getting an encounter as Heatman, which is actually really nice. That's actually a really solid trip, where I believe you only got the one encounter, right?
Yep, just
and
Sky
one and a
one.
half. which is really nice because we don't have access to transformations as Heatman. We, for story reasons, lost access to Mega Man very shortly and had to go save him from the Undernet. And usually that trip, if you get a lot of encounters, is really annoying because you're very reliant on draws, or you can risk a 50% chance to run away from the fights.
Also, one thing we didn't mention about Skytown. Skytown also has a signature computer, Mr. Weather. And Mr. Weather controls the weather. Literally controls the weather.
Because why wouldn't you want a system connected to the internet that literally controls the weather for an entire area?
So, yeah, now in every area, things are not going very well.
What could
In
possibly
Central
go
Town,
wrong?
it's storming really heavily. I forget. I think in Seaside it's snowing.
It's snowing in Seaside. It's like blistering hot or something in Greentown. I don't actually remember Greentown all too well.
We won't get to see it anyway. But yeah, anyways, things are going wrong.
So a virus is preventing us from actually using the elevator, so that's why we had to go check into that comp, because now we can go up the elevator. And this causes us to run into another issue where these 4 machines that are supposed to help control the weather, I guess, they get put out of control, and now we have to go stop them so that we can actually progress to stopping Mr. Weather.
Yeah, so yeah, this story part, the sky area part of the story, is just gauntlets upon gauntlets. We have to do a couple of more forced fights here.
These fights are a bit themed. For example, this is a freezer, so that's why we're fighting some aqua-themed viruses, and the next one's a shower, so it's more water-themed viruses. It can be very, very scary to do this fight. That's why we saw Phantom save very appropriately, because you're getting pushed to the back row by that wind box, and the bubbles, the way that they work from the starfish is they always go down the row and then down the back column. So you're being forced back in that column, and you will always get hit by the bubbles, constantly chain CC'd, and you'll oftentimes just die if you're not very careful. So
yeah, getting a poor draw in that fight is terrifying, because if you can't beast out there, you're basically forced to heat cross to get through that fight quickly. And if you heat cross there and you get hit, you take double damage from water elements. You get chain CC'd. You get knocked out of your heat cross. It's disaster if that happens. That is a run killer.
It's the second worst fight in the game.
Second, yes.
yeah, I would tend to agree with that. There are literally 2 fights that if someone told me they died to it, I would not even like say that they made any mistakes potentially.
Yeah, so this one was fire themed.
Now
we do it to the last one, the fan. Also, just an observation here, but there are a surprising amount of things in the Battle Network universe that have built-in flamethrowers.
You know, if you...
I mean, I get that they're cool, but...
if you were building these systems, you would also build things with as many flamethrowers as you possibly could.
I mean,
because
that is fair. That is fair. If I could get away with putting in a flamethrower in a heating system, yeah, I probably would.
Let me think. There's at least 1, 2, 3, 4 scenarios where things, or 4 of the 6 games that I can think of off the top of my head, where things have fire being spit out at you. Also, very fun cutscene coming up. Basically, as we mentioned, Skytown is very, very high up in the sky, and the stairs just kind of blew up and fell into the ocean below. So we can't get to Mr. Weather currently. We can't cross the terrain to actually get to the area. So what we're going to do is apparently there's just this very nice convenient copy bot once again. We're going to have Mega Man jump across this gap, and Lan will then jump across afterwards. He gets the bright idea to do this with an umbrella. You don't see this. I'm just describing the cutscene to you because it's funny. And jumps across, uses this umbrella. The umbrella breaks. He's about to plummet to his doom, and Mega Man catches him. But you can basically just leave Lan hovering there constantly with the umbrella because of text boxes, and it just looks really funny. Also, you want to talk about Slipwalk?
Yeah, I do. So one thing I did not mention earlier with Slip Run is there's a kind of buggy way to use it. If we talk to NPC, like that Mr. Prog right over there, while triggering Slip Run, which means moving and pressing B, we go into a glitched state called Slip Walk. We move at our regular running speed, but we are in our Slip Run animation. And what that does is we cannot get encounters while we're in that animation. We can still move around, we can still walk around, that's all perfectly fine. But we cannot get encounters. Unfortunately, what it also means is we are in a glitched state. So we have to be kind of careful with certain types of actions. For example, we do not ever want to step into a warp point while we're in that state, because what that does is it soft locks the game. Straight up just locks you out of any inputs.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. The game is like looking for a particular sprite that doesn't actually exist or something along those lines, and just ends up locking you out of all actions. You literally would just have to soft reset to the last place you saved. But
which, if you're doing it correctly, is never.
Yeah, it's very, very nice because we can actually abuse that with the mechanics of this comp. When you step on the warp to stand on top of this cloud here, it actually resets your step counter back to the last encounter check value that you got. Slipwalk, because you're not getting encounter checks, means that you can actually reset your step counter back to a very early state, which allows you to go through a lot of these areas without risking encounter checks at all, which is very nice. That first area was very unfortunate. He got an encounter just at the end. Also of note, one of the downsides of the Japanese version is that you cannot get an item at the same time that you are in a slipwalk state, because it will also soft lock your game. So that means on the Japanese version, you cannot slipwalk off of a GMD, for example, or any mystery data, which you could do on the US version. And that means that the US version actually has some ways to be more consistent, but technically this is forcing Phantom to do the faster strat, which is just get lucky.
Get lucky is always the fastest strat.
Also, we didn't talk about this tension comp. Doesn't really matter, but to quickly describe it to you, we are gathering the power of the Rainbow Macaroni to use Skittles to use the to destroy these typhoons and get rid of the rain. That's basically the best description I can give
pretty
you.
much it. And the typhoons are absolute bastards. They control you really hard. They move randomly. And sometimes they just get stuck in a place where you can't actually get around them, so you can't get rid of them, and you have to wait until they move.
Yep. Phantom had some pretty solid patterns, though, and overall, comp went very well. We also got a really nice draw on Element Man. You didn't really get to see too much of what he can do. Not a huge deal. Element Man can transform into all of the 4 elements. Unfortunately for him, he chooses wood element first every single time, and wood is not good against heat, so we just kind of bully Element Man. But Phantom also drew M-Boomer, which is very, very effective with heat cost as well.
Yeah, drawing M-Boomer on that fight feels really good, because as I mentioned, doing damage, fire damage to wood element enemies on a grass stage does quadruple damage. So our already overpowered Buster Shot flamethrower does quadruple damage in the second stage of that fight. So if you draw Emboomer on that fight, it's basically you can kill that. You can kill that boss so quickly, and it feels really good.
Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about it too much, but there was already an example where we used what is known as a shortcut. We set up a shortcut back to Land's main computer from Skytown's HP. What that means is basically you can go quickly between those two areas. And you can do this for all of the different main area HPs. So we just did the same thing for Greentown. The reason we chose Greentown this time is because, as part of the story, we will need to be going to Greentown next. So we set up the shortcut, and then we go back to... We use our shortcuts to go back to Lands, then to Skytown, to get to the Undernet to talk to that guy, who tells us, oh, well, the way's blocked. The person who knows the password got caught and is in jail, so we go check with the justice system and see that they are now released and enjoying a job by the sea or something along those lines. And so now we need to go to Seaside.
Yeah, and they're just really, they really play this up. They're like a hardened criminal, real bad person.
Yes, awful person.
Yeah, we never really learn what they did, but yeah.
Very dangerous for a child to be talking to someone like this.
It's her. Spoiler alert. Also just a generic NPC sprite that has existed in every Battle Network game since BN1. So, just always been like a cute waitress girl.
But
it's
she
not
does
the
tell
same
us the password to the door we encountered.
Yes, she gives us the
and
password.
In the English version, if I remember correctly, the password is money hats.
Yep.
And I'm not actually sure what it is in the Japanese version.
It is probably the same thing. It's just the name of a virus that you can actually encounter in Undernet. It's a little guy with throws a flash bomb at you.
Oh, those are called money hats. Oh, I see.
Yeah. That's their name. Took me a while to learn that one too, and then I looked and I'm like, oh, so that's where that comes from.
I just thought it was a funny word.
No, it's just the name of a virus. I too once thought it was just supposed to be a funny name. But anyway, you'll actually see some very nice intentional slips that speed up a tiny bit, but don't really mess up our step counter too much. Very good from Phantom. Keeps our step counter low, and resulted in actually not getting an encounter in that last area. Though he did risk a few checks because, that's just the way it works.
Ooh.
Okay. Here. So, I will say, you could have dipped into the other warp to reset your step counter to guarantee this encounter didn't happen, but it's not a huge deal, and that situation on the Japanese version especially just never comes up. So
yeah, we ran past a blue mystery data, and in the US version you can slipwalk off of those, so the chances of getting an encounter in that area are much lower in the US version.
So that was the final stage of the Pavilion Operator Expo Navi competition. We are now going to brag to all of the other competitors that we won, and 2 of them are actually other Link Navi operators. So they tell us about the classes that they're running, and if we really wanted to, we can go take their classes later. You won't be seeing that, unfortunately, in this any percent run.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool transformations the Mega Man has. Unfortunately, it's too slow to get them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was a bit of debate, I think, if getting Elec Man Link Navi was actually faster a while ago, really. Or could be made faster.
Yeah, no. In Gregar, there is one Link Navi known as Alekman, that is decent. This scenario does not take a whole lot of time. The cross that you get is very powerful and speeds things up kind of significantly, but overall it still loses 2 minutes. It is recommended for beginner runners though, because the time cost isn't that significant and makes a lot of fights easier.
Also, we go back to our hometown and talk to everybody except our friends.
Yeah, we were talking to them in a cutscene, so yeah. But yeah, this is just kind of a bit of a nostalgic trip. If you've ever played the games and you haven't played Battle Network 6, move to a brand new town, so this area might look familiar to you if you've played the other games anyway, because it's just that.
Also, that warp we just entered, that warp kills runs, because we're slipwalking, and remember, if you step into a warp while you're slipwalking, you soft-lock your game.
When you are slipwalking, you can press the B button still to still slip into the next wall, so you can basically cancel the slipwalk at any time.
Yeah.
Looks like
Which Phantom luckily did, because otherwise we would be staring at a still screen right now.
Yep.
Yeah. And doing it one more time.
Nice.
This actually goes very well. Is able to use that to go completely in counterless, which is a very nice optimization. And now we can jack out and back in. Technically speaking, movement-wise, this is slower, but because we can't get an encounter now, it actually does save time.
Yeah, again, getting lucky is still the fastest strat there. If you run back, it is faster.
Yeah.
But only if you don't get an encounter, and the chances of that are pretty low.
Yeah, when you're on your way back, you will get like 2 or 3 more checks at like 30% each, so you're practically guaranteed to get an encounter. So that's why we use that as a good opportunity to jack out and jack back in. But here, we can completely ignore all of that and do a lot of movement, but get no encounter ever, because you just slip into the warp. Because you slipped into a warp, you don't get an encounter check at all, and it just works out beautifully.
Let's see if we can get the mystery data skip. We wouldn't have gotten it either way.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that right in the corner there, a mystery data will spawn, which if you're slipping straight diagonally down right, you will run into. And because that will get you out of that animation quicker, it saves a tiny bit of time. Frames, yeah.
So anyway, we go hang out with our friends on the internet, and of course, because we are, someone who's constantly dealing with this evil organization, they're looking to mess with us, and they come and kidnap our friends while we're having a pleasant conversation with them. Very rude. And so we have to go to Undernet 2 in order to try and save them. This is actually a fun little gauntlet, kind of. It's actually 2 bosses back to back who we've already seen. It's now Blastman upgraded to his EX form, so he has more health, attacks a little bit faster, does a bit more damage. But because we have Heat Cross, he's kind of a pushover. Again,
he's also very predictable, and I absolutely love this fight because you just stand here and flamethrower him, and he just walks into it every single time.
Yeah, Phantom. Literally every runner ever could do this fight with their eyes closed. It's incredibly easy because when you're behind that box, he cannot hit you. It's like he always tries to do the same attack where he'll come to the front, and so as a result, you just kind of bully him like that. Unfortunately, got a little unlucky there with Dive Man's pattern. Gets knocked out of Heat Cross early. You're looking to get a little bit of damage in. Luckily, you managed to get just enough in with the 4 chip draw and used the Buster up to increase his Buster stats. So now his Beast Out charges do 200 damage. And this chip draw is just enough to deal with Dive Man EX on the second turn.
Very nice. Nice fight. Nice fight. That fight ideally takes 2 turns in most cases.
Yeah,
possible to have a draw where you can one-turn him, but I don't think it's particularly likely.
If you draw M Boomer, you can one-turn him with just M Boomer and 4 charge shots. It requires abusing his AI pattern just a little bit, but it's also very tough to properly execute.
Yeah. And you have to get extremely lucky with your draw.
Yep. So you're not guaranteed to draw M Boomer by any means. But anyway, now that we've done that, Mega Man gets kidnapped and he's caused to go berserk in a copy bot in the real world. So that's what we're off to do now. Trying to save Mega Man. We just basically cause him to go jump to the internet and hide from us. But right now, we don't have access to Mega Man, and we're trying to save him. We don't know where he is. Someone can give us that information, though, supposedly. Our teacher, who we haven't really talked to a whole lot recently, sends us an ominous email asking us to meet them at Skytown, which is a very odd place to meet our teacher. I don't know why he specifically chose Skytown. Well, technically I do know, but it's because, you know, he wants to disappear after this. But anyway.
It's to be a little bit more dramatic.
Yeah, our macho teacher tells us that he was part of the evil organization World 3 all along, and then jumps off of Skytown like a mad lad. Not really off of Skytown. He jumps across the gap that we did earlier and disappears.
Yeah, it turns out he tells us he's part of this criminal organization, and he also reveals that he is Blastman's operator.
Yes. But
big shocker right there.
But because we're his student, he also gives us the information that Mega Man is currently in the underground, which is the big hole that we actually saw earlier in Central 3 and have walked around several times. So we're going to try and take Heatman to go to the underground now. And this is actually the last couple trips that we take through Central area, which is the last couple times that Sneak Run will be utilized.
Yeah, those sneak runs that we bought how long ago? An hour ago? Almost?
Yeah,
Finally using them.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we do very early on, which are basically just purely for specific points later on in the run.
So this guy tells us that the underground has a barrier around it that if any Navi tries to jump into, it will basically incinerate them, or I guess the better word is obliterate them. They will not survive it. The only one who can disable this barrier is our school's principal, who is also the mayor of Cyber City, who's currently in an important meeting. Our friend Mick, classic troublemaker, breaks the little board at the front of the school, causes all of the security bots to swarm him because that's such a huge deal that you need all of the security bots in the school to deal with. And that means that no one is blocking the way to the mayor. And we discover that the mayor was with the evil organization all along as well. And yada yada, story happens. He gets arrested because our friend, who's a police officer, basically shows up and deals with him. And disables the barrier to the underground. So now, we have the lovely opportunity to experience everyone's favorite minigame once again. Yay. Coming up in just a short few seconds.
As soon as Heatman jumps into the giant hole.
I like that animation, by the way.
It's a very good animation.
We don't get to see it, but yeah. It looks kind of silly.
And here we go. It's Evil Spirits again. Part 3.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about this part. It is a little trickier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little trickier, first of all, to memorize. There's more steps to it. And also the margin for error is slightly smaller. Like in the first bits, if you accidentally use the wrong weapon, you usually still have enough leftover weapons to still kill everything and just finish the bit, albeit slightly slower. In these areas, if you use the wrong weapon, it's likely that you've just locked yourself out of the solution, and you just have to go back to the beginning to talk to the fallen officer guy and refresh your soul weapons, which unfortunately also refreshes the evil spirits. So you have to do the whole thing all over again.
Mm-hmm. So Area 1 is actually not too bad. You can get away with a little bit of an error. Area 2 coming up is actually, there is only one mistake you can, like, you only have one extra weapon at the end, and it's a dagger, so you can only mess up on one evil spirit and have to kill it. Otherwise, you have to completely restart the area.
Yeah, one thing we didn't mention earlier, I believe, that is kind of influencing the way we tackle these puzzles. While the evil spirits are active, fortunately, random encounters are turned off. So it's actually impossible to get encounters while the evil spirits are active. So what we try to do is we try to move in such a way through all the evil spirits that not only can we efficiently kill all of them, preferably in one hit and preferably multiple spirits with one hit, but also we try to end up as close to the exit as possible, because as soon as all of the evil spirits are dead, that means we can get random encounters again, and it's as if we just walked into the area. So we can't get encounters right away, which gives us time to run to the scene transition, which will reset our step counter so that we're safe.
Yes, it's very good because the encounters in this area are pretty difficult. And again, we're using Heatman, who doesn't have all of the fancy transformations that Mega Man has, so we're very draw reliant as a result. Luckily, because of what Crayon mentioned, we are able to go through these encounters completely encounterless. However, we are forced to do one fight. It's actually a boss fight coming up with Heatman, and it is probably one of the more annoying boss fights. It can be difficult. It is possible to die to it, especially as a newer runner, but more often than not, it's actually not a bad fight once you've kind of learned the pattern a bit. It's just usually how lucky did you draw to determine how much time you lose.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna let you explain this one because I know it, but only intuitively. I cannot explain this fight.
So this fight, G-Beast Mega Man, let's go. Basically, he's going to move 6 times, and then he's going to attack, and he has 2 types of attacks he can do at first. Very nice draw. The first one is basically a 50-50 of whether or not he does 1 or 2 slashes. If he does 1 slash, you can't counter hit him. It's a paralyzing slash that if he hits you, he'll paralyze you, and then he will, as you see, do a Gatling. Or he'll do 2 slashes, which he won't follow it up with anything. After 3 attacks, on his 4th attack, he will always, in this particular version of him, do a elemental attack, which is the where he spawns that little thunderball. And it's usually the best time to use Elem Trap, though unfortunately because he used it while an elemental attack was active, it actually just got completely cancelled. But very overall good fight, and we move directly into a new fight, back with Mega Man, and this is Colonel, where we can literally just AI loop him. It goes from like a very kind of annoying and difficult fight to pretty relaxing and calm fight. Basically, you see these 3 panels that he's trying to hit with his what's called Cross Divide. If you stand on them, he will always try and do another attack just afterwards, and so therefore you just kind of get him in this AI loop where he just constantly tries to attack you and then do this and then this over and over and over again until he's dead. There is a slightly faster way to do that AI loop where he doesn't summon the soldier constantly, but definitely a bit tighter on that, and not very trivial, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely takes quite a bit of practice to loop him in the cross divide attacks back to back, because the timing window between when you can charge shot him again and when he attacks again, very, very tiny. You have to move pretty quickly and time your charge shot almost perfectly to actually get him in that loop. It's a very nice fight, by the way. Yeah.
It's overall a pretty two solid fights back to back. Now, this is a very interesting trip. The reason that we choose to go to AC/DC here is because this allows us to set up a shortcut that we will make use of later, even though we're literally just using this shortcut in order to then immediately go to a different shortcut. It's also technically closer to the metro station, which allows us to then take the Cyber Metro, or not Cyber Metro, literally just the Lev bus, my bad, directly to our next area once we have finished this trip. But this trip is a bit tricky. We're going through the Undernet to learn information about where our friend, who we haven't really talked about, named Iris, has been kidnapped. And we're trying to find out where they might be. However, there are a lot of Undernet denizens around, and they're blocking our path, so we have to fight our way through 5 relatively difficult fights. So,
for those of you who remember, Iris was the girl that was being attacked by the Robodog at the very beginning of the game.
Mhm. This fight in particular can be kind of annoying if not perfectly executed. Yeah, so it's a little tricky. Took some damage, but luckily we have so much HP that it literally does not matter.
I will be saving.
Yeah, and this, yeah, definitely saving for this. So this is the most difficult fight in the game. We talked earlier about these enemies. The Pulse Bulb is very dangerous. And also, we have 2 water-type enemies. And being in Heat Cross is very, very scary. Oh,
you got
very,
to pull
very
off
nice.
the Black Bomb strat, which is very, very tough for the record. It's a very tight window to avoid the Aqua Needles like that, and also throw the Black Bomb and then hit it without the Pulse Bulb going back and completely destroying the Black Bomb.
It's a little annoying. They have 250 HP and Element Trap only does 240.
Yep.
Yeah, I usually just Heat Cross for this fight. It is a little bit of a breather after that last one.
This fight can be a
we got
little
lucky for.
annoying because that boiler, that kettle virus, actually does aqua damage, despite being weak to fire. So if you're not very careful and you go into Heat Cross, you can actually get destroyed by the kettle. It will almost just instant delete you sometimes. It's quite annoying. These
This
guys are
fight
also
actually messes me up.
Yeah, these guys are also particularly annoying because they just kind of jump around a lot, very difficult to nail down. They do it very fast, and they do quite a bit of damage per hit. So,
Yeah. Also, when they land, they stun you for a very brief moment, so you can't move.
yeah.
So yeah, they do a lot of damage. They stun you. That fight, once you get that most difficult fight out of the way, that fight can still end your run if you're doing the low HP strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, we have lots of HP in this one because of the extra HP plus 500. So that fight is not that big of a deal, luckily.
Yep. And all of those fights were to learn information that Iris, or the people who kidnapped Iris, are supposedly at Skytown. Our teacher shows up and actually saves the day because the people who kidnapped Iris are traitors to the evil organization, whatever, you know. And then he disappears like the hero that he is once again.
Yeah, actually, that part of the story I think, is kind of annoying. Like these members of that evil organization try to split off and start their own evil organization, and they're kind of written in a way that I like comedic relief. They're like bumbling villains.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it is kind of ham-handed.
But anyway, we're getting into the final parts of the game. It's actually time for that expo that we've kind of talked about a little bit. Because we are the Pavilion Operator Expo Navi, we get to invite all of our friends. So we invite all of our friends in Central Town, and because even though technically it happens within 5 seconds in the game doesn't expect us to travel what would essentially take hours to get to AC/DC Town. So we're supposed to invite our remote friends via the internet. You haven't really seen our friend Chad / Proto-Man, but he's one of our friends. He says that he can't even make it. We use him, because he's very immediately available, to slipwalk, and use this opportunity to go talk to all of our other friends and invite them to the expo as well. There is one small caveat we didn't really mention with slipwalk as well. You can't enter menus in this state because the game thinks that you're slipping. You're able to interact with things because of the glitch itself. That's why you're able to execute it. So that's why Phantom just slipped into Glide to end it, risked one encounter check just at the end. Very luckily, Virus Master Glide did not betray us today, and we were able to avoid that one encounter chance that we got right at the end. It's like a 30% chance.
Oh,
You forgot to talk to Mom.
Gotta talk to Mom before going to talk to your friends.
It's a big meme. Everyone forgets to talk to Mom. It's huge.
It's literally
huge.
the first time, like it's the third time in the game you have to talk to your mother.
Yeah. So this is the expo, and you guys get to listen to the lovely 9-second loop song. It's beautiful.
I actually really like this song.
It's not. No, I'm not. Like, I don't mind it. It's not a bad song, but it's really funny that it loops after 9 seconds.
Yeah.
But basically, it's just a little like private tour that we get, and all we have to do here is just go to each of the pavilions, and we just have to stamp our card with one stamp from every pavilion. Nice swag talks to 2 of them. Very, very impressive.
I got the first one also.
Oh, you did? I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, no,
Very
Phantom is
important.
actually really good at the swag talks. So it doesn't actually do anything, it just looks kind of funny. But you have like 1 or 2 frames, I believe, when you talk to something to turn around. And it will, well, look as if you're facing away when you're talking to something.
Yep. But we have learned now that the expo that we just visited was actually the base operation, or the base of operations for the evil organization all along, and now their master plan is going into action where they try and take over the world with a bunch of evil navis and copy bots. We just kind of ignore those copy bots and instead just find a back way, unfortunate, a back way into the expo so that we can go and save the day.
And what we come into now is this split is called the boss rush. We basically repeat the first few dungeons in a different way, to be fair. But yeah, each area here is modeled after the earlier dungeons. So this one is aquarium comp, essentially. Has the same gimmick. You have to find the frogs, bring them back to you. Proper tanks. And there are sharks in your way.
Yep. The unfortunate thing about this particular trip is that because we're not actually in the aquarium, there's no L button strats that we can employ here, so we can't reset our step counter. But now we have access to Slip Run, which allows us to instead slipwalk and use that to avoid all random encounters.
In the US version, we slipwalk off of that GMD we just passed. But unfortunately, in the Japanese version, we can't do that because that will softlock our game.
Yep.
So we have to do it a little bit differently off the prog that unfortunately talks a lot.
Yeah, it's technically the faster strat here to use the US version, strictly because that prog talks and takes up so much time. But we do have faster movement that we're doing in the JP version, so it kind of evens out a little bit. Because we get to actually make use of slip run itself rather than just slip walk a bit more.
And because that prog talks so much, you'll see Phantom be very, very careful when he brings back the prog to the tank. Because we do not want to accidentally touch the tank. If we do that, that means we touch the wall, and we will drop out of our slipwalk animation. Cutting it very close on that shark.
No big deal, just a shark. Okay.
And so that is that for Pavilion Comp 1, although we do have one more random chance at an encounter. Normally, you would expect to see a boss at the end of this comp, but we've already defeated Diveman EX earlier, so he's not here. That being said, there will be bosses at the end of the next couple redo comps.
This one in particular, there is a much faster strat that you could do, but it is also very hard. So I'm just not going to do it. I will take an encounter here.
Yep. Basically, as we mentioned before with Judge Tree comps, this is modeled after them. You cannot step on the grass, so you can't step on panels that you've already stepped on. As a result, though, you can technically get the gavel to start chasing you, and you can use Slip Run to outrun the gavel entirely. So using some fancy movement, you just completely ignore the mechanics of the comp, and because the gavel's chasing you, you actually get to skip this encounter. So it's slightly faster movement, and it saves the time of actually getting this encounter. So as a result, you save about 20 seconds via this gavel skip. That's what we call it. But it is not, it's not easy to do. It's probably the hardest trick in the game, and so obviously it's very fair to skip it.
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of practice.
It really only saves 20 seconds, so.
And if you get caught, especially near the end, it starts to lose time. Judge Man is pretty much the same as he was before. He just technically does more damage if he hits you, I believe, and he has a few more hit points. But it's still not much of an issue because we can just change time and kill him.
Yeah, Judgment is still a pushover. And now we move on to the next Pavilion comp, which is a redo of Mr. Weather comps, where, as I briefly touched on earlier, we have to collect the Rainbow Macaroni, which gives us the power of the Rainbow Skittles in order to put out these typhoons that are causing the rainstorm.
This comp is the reason, not just text, but this comp is the reason I run on JP.
Yes, there's a fun little detail about this game. In the US version, they actually, for I guess space constraints, I believe is the popular reason, that they had to cut some areas, and because they cut some areas, they had to move some virus encounters from those cut areas into different places. And so this area actually has more encounter possibilities in US. And those encounter possibilities in US can be very scary and actually kill you if you're unlucky, because some of the virus fights in this area have a virus known as a Nightmare, which cannot be damaged by anything other than swords. And at this point in the run, we have completely removed all swords from our folder, because other than this virus that we randomly can get, swords are completely useless. So the only thing we can do is run away from fights. However, if you get a very scary version, in the US version, I should say, there's one scary fight that can just outright kill you.
Yeah, if you run into that Nightmare encounter on the US version, you cannot kill those guys, so you basically just have to try and run away. And because of our low base HP, we have very little chance to actually do that. In the Japanese version, I think it's still possible to get that encounter, but the odds of it are very, very low. So
You are still able to get a Nightmare encounter, but the Nightmare encounters in JP are much more tame. It's very unlikely that you'll die to them, so you can still run away, oftentimes in 3 turns. Sometimes you get really unlucky and have to take a few more tries, but overall it's not nearly as bad in JP.
we see another safety save. Good thinking. This dungeon is modeled after, of course, Robo Control Comp, the very first dungeon in the game. But they added in these evil spirits. So instead of flame walls, we have evil spirit walls. And they do a ton of damage. Also, instead of just saving the prog, we have to do a virus fight. And these fights can honestly get pretty scary. Especially if you're doing the low HP one. Yeah.
The next one I'm about to do will be the scary one, in my opinion at least.
This fight is, there's no set way to do it because a lot of them have a lot of the viruses in it have very random movement that you can't do a whole lot about. Especially this dark mech virus in the front. So I believe this area is the main reason that Phantom bought at full energy earlier. If he gets a little unlucky with some virus patterns, his HP could get pretty low here, especially considering he's tanking these 100 damage firewalls that kind of eat through his 1000 max HP pretty quickly.
And also losing hit points over time in fights. Luckily we don't spend a lot of time in fights, but it does add up.
Yep. However, once we have finished these fights, I'm not sure if Phantom does it, but there is a safety strat you can do, which is you can jack out and jack back in, fully restore your HP. Because you've already cleared the virus fights, you have access to the boss of the area. So
very solid fights, by the way. Well done.
So now we get to fight the final boss of this area with full HP, and if you remember the evil spirits scenario the first time, it's Circus Man. Again, more HP, more damage, but not really more threatening. He's still pretty much just the same. Just
If you've gotten low on earlier fights, this fight can be very scary. He moves faster, he does more damage. His patterns are a little bit different. If you get caught in that attack where he drops down the tent, it loses a lot of time, does a ton of damage. This fight can and does kill them.
Maintain, I'm still like the only runner that hasn't died to Circus Man yet.
That is a big flex. Sure it is.
And now we are coming up on the final run, final area and final boss of the game. So we are getting close to time for the person on tech. So basically, after a couple of cutscenes, we'll go into this final area. Basically, just have to slip through the area very quickly, get to the final boss, which is Gregar. And this will be the first time that we get to see a kind of new mechanic, but we've had access to it the whole time, which is the combination of Heat Cross and Beast Out, for what is known as Beast Cross, or Heat Beast. So first we're going to Beast Out, or not Beast Out, first we're going to Heat Cross, get a little bit of damage in while we wait, because we have to take 2 turns to do this. And then we get access to Heat Beast by beasting out while already in Heat Cross, and now we can charge these null element chips to put out basically this heat breath attack that Gregar himself is actually doing. The fun thing about these is that it has multiple hitboxes, and Gregar himself actually has 2 hitboxes. So because these attacks hit at the exact same time, dealing double damage, so it's 400 damage per hit with this heat breath attack of ours. Now, time is coming up very shortly.
Yeah.
That is time.
Yeah, time is on the final hit.
Gee.
Okay. I will say I had my splits going, so that was a big PB.
Oh,
So thanks.
nice.
Congrats,
What was your
Marathon.
time?
You just saved 14 minutes. So I got a 2:21:59.
Yep.
At least according to my timer.
That is solid.
Yep. It's a very good time overall. Very very good run, Phantom. Pleasure doing commentary for it, and yeah, I mean, overall just very good. Congrats on the new PB.
Yeah,
Yes.
getting close to that top 10 time.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Rich and Crayon.
congratulations on that. Congratulations on that PB. Very well done, and thank you for showcasing this run. So now,
Yeah,
if
of
you
For
course.
having us.
wanna do some shout-outs or say anything after the run, now's your time.
Yeah, I'll go first. So like, thank you, Crazy, for there's my Twitch and Twitter, and everyone else's too. But I stream a lot of RPGs, and I do it almost every day. And also like big shout outs to Team BN. They're very helpful. Resources are very good. Like if you want to play Battle Network, run Battle Network, it's really easy to get into. Everyone's really friendly. It's just a great community, honestly.
Yeah, and it's not only for speedrunners. There's lots of fans of the game joining Team BN. Just people who are wanting to talk about the games.
Yes,
There's still a community for it.
We advertise Team BN as a community of fans of both the Battle Network and, if you're familiar with the DS games, the Star Force series of Mega Man games. So if you're into the RPG Mega Man games, definitely recommend checking out Team BN, and especially if you're interested in speedrunning these games. We mentioned it earlier, but even if you can't do a full like any percent run, we have added some new shorter categories to at least help you get involved in the community in whatever way you can. So.
Yeah, thank you
other
very
than
much.
that, go follow Phantom. His streams are really fun. And thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It was absolutely amazing run and amazing commentary as well. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.